I've been a leadership trainer for 20 years now, and every time people have asked me, Guraj, how do you define leadership? I get stumped all the time because it's such a broad word that how do I explain it to them in a short amount of time? But whenever anybody's ever asked me, Guraj, what's a leader? That I have no problem describing, because just watch your back. How many people are following you, and how many people are getting influenced by you, and how many people are fans of yours? The more the number of people, the bigger the leader, the better the leader you are. Because simply put, it's a science. These massive followings that people create, there's a whole science behind it, and leadership trainers and leadership and influence coaches around the world have been explaining this now for about a decade now. Now, if you ask me who was the genius behind Apple, well, everybody thinks it was Steve Jobs, right? Well, he was a genius, but he wasn't the genius behind Apple, because that was Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was the one who created the Apple computer, and Steve Jobs was the most recognized person at Apple because of his mammoth following across the globe and all the people that worshipped him. And Wozniak was the founder, and Jobs was the co-founder of Apple. And speaking of co-founders, Ronald Wayne was also co-founder, and he sold his 10% stake in Apple in 1976 for just $800. So that's a pretty small piece of the pie. Now, what did Jobs have that created such a fan following behind him? And this is what we're going to discuss today. Now, number one, engagement. Find a way to engage with people, and find a way that people can engage with you. Now, during my leadership trainings, I explain to my audiences a lot of ways on how people can engage with you, including giving speeches and having social appearances, and being at platforms where you have to give a talk and being part of a panel. These things are super, super important, but in today's digital age, being known is having a rock solid social media team. Hire a social media manager. Now, I never really got around to the gym until I hired a personal trainer. And all the beautiful content that you'll create won't really reach all those 4 billion people who are social media users until you have people that are posting it around all the platforms for you religiously. That's how you get a huge following, because there's one user added every 10 seconds, and each of them has 5.5 accounts. How are you going to get to all of those people? Hire a professional, go the professional route. You also have to comment on a lot of people's, make sure your content is authentic and it's yours, but also go through other people's content and start commenting on that. You're gonna gain a lot of people that share your point of view, and this is how you gain a lot more people, because whenever they click on, oh well, who's this person, they're gonna say, you know what, he or she thinks a lot like me, I'm gonna start following him. And don't forget the true and tried old methods, they still work for now. Having offline presence, that's gonna work for another little while too. Okay, number two, understand your USPs. Now, I gave a 3-hour talk in Abu Dhabi once to a bunch of head honchos of a company on how to become famous and how to get more sales actually by becoming famous. All we did for 3 hours was we brainstormed each person's USPs. Now, what was the end game? Of course, having a lot of followers and getting the maximum amount of sales, but everyone had tons of unique talents, and we had to pinpoint a few of those. What are yours? What's your greatest USP? And one of the greatest USPs that we figured out a lot of people have is sincerity. Sincerity sells. Whatever your USP, learn how to showcase it so that people start to follow you, people start to believe in you. And one of the things that you're gonna see is once you nail your USPs, the word of mouth will start catching on, because people will know you by those. So find a way to get people to be crazy about you. Find a way to sell your talents. Number three, and this is the most important one, show a little personality. Getting the most amount of people is gonna happen when you're not afraid to put in a little flair and zing in your communications. And whenever you talk to your audiences, realize that nobody wants to see a person who's just merely skills and talents. People are keen to know the human side of you, your hobbies and your dreams, and most importantly, your failures, because that's how they know you're real. Market yourself as a well-rounded person, somebody who has immense talent as a pro. People will follow you the more they fall in love with you. And the more they fall in love with you is because they're gonna realize that you're just like them.